our Senior Advisor for Foreign Policy and National Security is joining us, Rick Grenell. And first thing I want to go to you, Rick, is this latest revelation in the letter campaign by the 51 former Intel officials and some current Intel officials that called the Hunter Biden laptop Russian disinformation. What we wanted to add to that was there's now a report that Mike Morell, a former CIA director, was telling the folks who he was asking to sign this, like Leon Panetta and Mike Hayden and Brennan, that, by the way, once you agree to put your name on this, I am going to take this through a pre-publication clearance from the CIA. We now know that there was no time for that because once Brennan signed on to it on the 19th, it took about 18 minutes for him to say yes, and the letter was released a couple hours later. So what would that have looked like? As a former Intel official, are there times when you do go back to and you make sure, hey, before any of this comes out, or a book, I would see a lot of times this would probably be people's books or even articles they might write and say, I just want to make sure this goes through the clearance process. And it looks like this had no opportunity to do that.
Look, there is a clearance process for former Intel officials, and we have to use our best judgment, although, I've written foreign policy opinion pieces a lot, even including for ACLJ, and I have been contacted by DNI specifically to say all my pieces should be cleared by the government, by the Intel agencies, because of my past position. And I have pushed back a little bit to say, well, I'm going to allow you to clear if I feel like I'm using information that needs to be cleared. But if this is just my opinion and I'm not using classified information, I'm not going to ask for clearance. And I shouldn't have to. And to have the DNI's office come to me and specifically say, get everything cleared that you're saying publicly is obnoxious, and I'm not going to do it. But when it comes to this letter, the fact that Mike was saying to people, I'm going to get this cleared, means that he was implying that there might be intelligence that he's weeding into and talking about Hunter Biden's laptop being Russian disinformation. And so he would want to get all of that specifically cleared. What we now know is that there wasn't a single piece of intelligence. There wasn't a briefing for any of these 51 people. They made it up. So Avril Haines needs to come clean, and she needs to tell us, did Mike Morell and the Biden team seek to have some sort of sign-off from the intelligence agencies? Did they even ask? Did they request? And what was the intelligence agency's answers? Because I would like to know if the intelligence agencies pushed back to say, well, there is no evidence that the Russians did anything with Hunter Biden's laptop. Were they warned? Maybe this is something for those intelligence officials, those career officials who are still at DNI. We need to get these answers.
It's interesting because if you look at what they did, Rick, as far as you have a situation where you've got this letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials. They put this letter out. They get it over to the FBI and Facebook, and everybody's got it. And then the FBI is then talking to the social media platforms about not running certain information, particularly the laptop, which you're talking about election interference. It doesn't have to be, it's not machine manipulation. It's information manipulation. It's the Russian collusion narrative against Trump. It's now suppressing this debate on the inappropriate nature of what was on the Hunter Biden laptop. Now, here's the problem. Viewpoint discrimination is always viewed as unconstitutional. I've done 4 Supreme Court cases just dealing with that, and they're all either 8-1 or unanimous. There's no controversy that you don't silence one side of the debate. But that's precisely what happened in this election cycle.
Well, there's no question. I think it's happening in our universities. It's happening in government. It's happening in the Democratic Party, who keeps attacking people for saying something that, is the truth, but somehow viewed differently by Democrats. And so they call it misinformation or disinformation. And it's not. It's dissenting information. We all know it. And when I was growing up, my dad used to say, sit and listen. You might learn from somebody. And now what we have are people running out of the rooms when they can't handle some sort of fact. So look, I think this just goes back to Avril Haines. I think she's got to come clean. We need to be able to trust our intelligence agencies that they are not putting their finger on the scale when it comes to partisan politics. They need to come clean on whether or not they were involved in this, letter that was circulating in draft form. And Mike Morrell clearly says that he was going to reach out to the CIA. Did the CIA look at this letter and sign off? It's a legitimate question.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they would have signed off on the final form because he released it like moments after getting Brennan to sign on. But could he have gone preemptively with it? We don't know. That's what we could, the answers would be nice to know is, did he mislead all of these individuals? Did they just find out yesterday that they were all misled when this report went public? And do they even care? Because they're all kind of operatives anyways for the Biden administration. I don't expect any of those signers to the letter themselves are going to raise any questions because they're so in the bag for Biden. But I get it all ties to. I wanted to go to this, Rick. It keeps coming up. This is pretty unique too. I've never seen it before at this level. We have a committee chairman, Republican committee chairman of the Oversight Committee, Comer, who's a very serious person in Washington, D.C., and he's seen as that by Republicans on both the right and kind of even the more moderate Republicans. So when he was put forward to be the oversight chair, there was almost unanimous support for him. And he's come forward and said, before there is any movement from the U.S. attorney in Delaware on Hunter Biden, they need to wait until we have a press conference Wednesday and lay out all of this data about Hunter Biden that they have been able to put together. I guess it would be via whistleblowers and confidential informants to Congress. Never seen anything quite like that in Washington to see a member of Congress. The closest thing, unfortunately, I've seen, Rick, is Adam Schiff pulling stunts like that and not being able to deliver. So I think that's my big message to Comer and his team is you better deliver when you make a statement like this.
You're not kidding.
I certainly don't like having this played out at a press conference. We shouldn't be telling the intelligence agencies to pay attention to a press conference. What Comer needs to do is take this information and get it into the hands of DOJ and the FBI and others. Go have a private meeting, present this information. We can't be playing this out so publicly. I think the press conference is appropriate for the public to understand what's happening. That is certainly a part of the transparency strategy that we need to be having. But the intelligence agencies, the law enforcement agencies are going to have a lot of questions. They need to be able to have some private time to ask those questions.
Rick, I said the same thing earlier today. I mean, my concern here is it sounds just like Adam Schiff. We've got all this information. We're going to have this press conference. The DOJ, don't do anything until we have this press conference. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to have a press conference. It's going to be a bunch of transfers, none of which are going to be to Joe Biden. It's going to be some LLCs. Maybe it's from foreign nationals, but not foreign governments. Is it a federal Foreign Agent Registration Act case? Those are hard to bring. But it's like a setup here. The Republicans doing this to themselves.
Well, let's hope not. I certainly don't understand it. It's not something that I would do. But I hope that Kevin McCarthy is involved here, is bringing some leadership to say, look, we're going to give this information to the FBI and to DOJ. We can take it public to make sure that the public knows that we are pushing these issues. But this is a set of information that needs to be given privately.
I mean, I think, Rick, the issue, what Comer's explaining, he does say, too, they're going to go to the FBI and DOJ with it. I wonder if it's just they can't even get the FBI and DOJ on the phone. I mean, I think they are having a difficult time. We know that Biden won't even meet with McCarthy on the debt ceiling and the debt limit and the budget. So if he won't meet with the Speaker of the House, imagine if you're just a chairman of the Oversight Committee and that's a big deal. But trying to get any attention from the DOJ, maybe they might feel, this is kind of what I would think is, like, this is their only way to get the DOJ's attention is to do something more like a spectacle, as long as they can back it up. I mean, like you said, they've got to have a lot more than what's in a press conference to take to DOJ and FBI.
First of all, from my own personal experience, there's no question that DOJ and FBI are not going to listen to you on the first phone call. That's not how they work. But you got to be persistent. I mean, I went over to DOJ and demanded, information, even when I was in the cabinet. So there's no question that they're probably pushing Comer off, but he's got to get very aggressive and make sure that this information goes to them privately.
No, I agree. I mean, we've been talking about the whole show. This is kind of unprecedented to hear. So you got to deliver. We want to be the party that delivers. We want to be the members of Congress and support the members of Congress that deliver. We don't want to become like the Adam Schiffs and see that kind of show. Rick, we always appreciate your insight.